Good evening, book lovers of the internet. Welcome or welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe because for every subscriber, I get a new subscriber, and I also read a page from a book of my choice. I just got back home from Gozo, and in today's video, which is the very first video of 2025, I am going to be sharing with you my favorite reads of 2024. So, all in all, in 2024, I read 114 books, and for this video, I prepared 13 books. Three of them will be books which are going to get some sort of appraisal anyway because they were amazing, but they didn't make the top 10. And then I am going to let you know the books I enjoyed the most in 2024. I am going to be making another video where I will be telling you all about the books I enjoyed the least in 2024. So, the books which are going to be getting an honorable mention, a bit of a shout out, are What You Are Looking For Is in the Library by Michiko Aoyama. This was overall a very enjoyable read. Of course, I have a library of my own, and having a main character, or one of them rather, who is capable of giving you the perfect recommendation every single time without hesitation and helping one understand how to fix the issue in his or her life, right? It's always a lovely sort of character to see. It was completely new to me, and I enjoyed this one. I would highly recommend it. Next is Beyond the Sea by Paul Lynch. Now, this author was in Malta just a couple of months ago, and I had the privilege of listening to him for a couple of minutes when he came to the Malta Book Fair. Now, this one is also quite a memorable read. I wouldn't say it's entirely original or mind blowing, but I do still think about it from time to time, and I did enjoy the concept, even though I would classify it as more of a retelling than an original sort of story. Next, we have another and the final honorable mention for this video, which is Percy Jackson and the Rat of the Triple Goddess. Now, if you've been watching this channel for a very long time, you would know how much of a massive fan of Rick Riordan's I am. I love Percy Jackson. I have been a massive fan since I was young, and this book, although filled with action and adventure, and although it was very enjoyable, I wouldn't say it ranks higher than the other books within the same series. And as a matter of fact, I feel as though I am not enjoying these books as much as I used to for some reason. And the one thing that is making me love these books still is how much I've grown to understand the characters and how much they've become a part of my life. I feel as though I've known them for my entire life. I feel as though we're very good friends at this stage, and the nostalgia keeps me returning every single year. So, Rick Riordan, I mean, he's an expert at what he does, but I feel as though some of his other books, especially in the Percy Jackson series, were better. So let's move on to the top 10. These aren't in any particular order, except for the Book of Bill, perhaps, which was definitely the best book of 2024 for me, the one I was most looking forward to, my most anticipated publication for 2024. This was absolutely fantastic. Alex Hirsch is a genius, and his creativity knows no bounds. It would be a complete honor to get to know this guy. Highly recommend this book. Make sure to watch Gravity Falls and buy Journal 3 as well. So, the other nine, not in any particular order. We have fiction, non-fiction, and some graphic novels here. So I'll start by mentioning one of my most recent reads, which is The Lantern of Lost Memories by Sanaka Hiragi. Now, this one consists of three different stories. They're all pretty interesting, especially the last two. Some of the characters actually broke my heart. I managed to relate with many of them, and I also managed to empathize with quite a lot as well. There are some situations which I definitely hope not to face in my life in this book, but the way it's written is also extremely beautiful, and I would highly recommend it. Next is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Now, this entails of a very, very interesting concept. We have a woman who kills her husband, who shoots her husband 5 times in the head, and we don't realize why until several parts later. And as it turns out, I mean, the therapist plays a massive role in this book almost as much as the silent patient herself, but it all boils down to adultery, so very interesting concept, would recommend this one as well. Next is The Teacher by Frida McFadden. I bought this one because I wish to become a teacher myself. I am studying towards becoming a teacher, so I thought it would be interesting to start my Frida McFadden journey with The Teacher, and I was not disappointed. Coincidentally, this one has a lot to do with adultery as well, but in this one, we have an English teacher who cheats on his wife, who is a maths teacher, with one of his students, who is also his wife's students, and of course, the student is underage, which was absolutely disgusting to see. And the revenge segment in this book was brilliant. Chapters are short, relatively quick read, and very, very engaging. Next is a book which I haven't stopped thinking about, to be completely honest. Tender is the Flesh by Agustina Basterica. In this one, the author tries to send a message um, when it comes to veganism, to consuming meat in general, to how this is ruining the world, and she tries to spin this whole ideology where eating meat is concerned. But in this one, human flesh is raised. Humans are raised as though they're animals and they have no rights, no dignity. They're butchered, they're sold, and consumed. And this whole concept is taken advantage of, and in my opinion, taken too far. Horror, to be honest, but um, I still think about this every single day and how cool of a concept it is. I found this one to be very, very original, very thought provoking. The way it's written, perhaps not as much. I enjoyed the concept much more than the way it was written in, and I'm not particularly a big fan of the conclusion, even though I was extremely shocked by the way Basterica decided to end things. Next is we have Saga Volume 2. Now, this entire graphic novel series in general is very interesting. The illustrations are beautiful and extremely weird. This one is an image which is going to be very hard to eliminate from my memory. Um, but it's a very cool story. We have characters from, it's kind of like a Romeo and Juliet story, but it has to do with the whole universe sort of thing. It takes place across several different planets and science fiction, fantasy, adventure, betrayal, the whole sort of thing. Very fast paced, a lot of action, several interesting characters. Would recommend this series. This one was definitely one of my favorites of last year's. Next, we have a book which I wouldn't say I particularly enjoyed too much, not as much as the ones I've just mentioned, but Stephen King's Apt Pupil was pretty interesting. This one has to do with a student who takes advantage of an old man's PTSD, but the old man is a Nazi, or used to be a Nazi rather, and they end up killing several people together, and it's horrible from start to finish what they do. Quite memorable. Basically, he ends up ruining his entire reputation, his entire life because of this Nazi. So, Apt Pupil by Stephen King. Good concept. Took me quite some time to get through, but still quite memorable, I would say. Next is another Percy Jackson book. This time it's The Chalice of the Gods, the sixth book in the series. This one I enjoyed much more, maybe because it was my first time returning to the Percy Jackson and the Olympians world after so many years. It was so good to see the characters once again. The adventure was brilliant, the action not particularly memorable. The characters are okay, but once again, the nostalgia really plays a massive role when it comes to my enjoyment, where this series is concerned. Next one is Wonka. Now, this one is by Sibayal Pounder, based on Charlie and the Chocolate Factory by Roald Dahl, of course. I watched the movie about 3 times, I would say. Found it to be extremely enjoyable every single time. I watched it with my mother on my 21st birthday. That's how much I enjoyed it. And the book, was equally as fantastic and as imaginative. And I always love any sort of um, reimagining of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Would highly recommend Wonka, and I look forward to the sequel as well. Timothy Chalamet is going to be in the other movie as well, of course, playing Wonka himself. And finally, is Jeanette McCurdy's book I'm Glad My Mum Died. This was heartbreaking. I've been a massive fan of Nickelodeon's for a very long time. I grew up watching so many shows by Dan Schneider, and it was heartbreaking to see how so many characters, especially Jeanette McCurdy herself, were treated. I also watched the documentary series Behind on Set. It was equally as heartbreaking what she went through mentally, what her mother made her go through as well to be a young actress to get paid to help get her family out of um, financial trouble, I suppose, or help her family live a better life. What her mother made her do was absolutely heartbreaking, especially at such a young age. And I believe she is still trying to recover from the effects which she suffered so many years ago. So this one I found to be very memorable as an autobiography. I am a fan of Janet McCurdy's acting. I mean, I really enjoyed iCarly and Sam and Cat, and I really didn't know what she was going through. So reading all of this really opened my eyes to the horrors that might be taking place on set. But actors do so much to give us a performance which is entertaining and which is fun and immersive, and we don't always appreciate that enough. And this is definitely one of those cases. But anyway, those are my top 10 favorite books, which I read in 2024. I didn't have a script for this, so apologies for pausing here and there, just to think for a while. I also had the three honorable mentions, so you can use all of these as recommendations, by the way. I mean, they're all brilliant books. They will help you um, think about the world in a different way. They will help you spend your time in a more productive way as well. And since I'm recommending them, they must be amazing. So, anyway, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe. Check out the rest of my content because why not? It's absolutely amazing. And I will see you in the next one, hopefully, very, very soon. Bye, guys.